was doing this previous example, I noticed that it's not really behaving exactly like I would like it to. So I noticed that when I run the example, um, and I changed here, I did like a fake run client sh that will just print something. I noticed that I'm not really reaching this command, even though everything else was running fine. So I can just try and rerun it again to show. So if you recall, we saw some action, we looked at the status. The status was all 0, everything seemed to run successfully. But then I never really come to this run client command. And so let's just demonstrate it again. You can see that it doesn't tell me that it's running the client. And now if I go back to my due file, I look at the conditions that I have. So I want the server to be running and the client installation to complete before I can start the client. And you can see that when I check whether the client installation completed, I am going to check for the success of that installation. But when I'm checking that the client is running, that the server is running, I'm going to check that the process is there. And that's actually backwards, because the process that I'm running there is sudo service bind9 restart, so that process will complete. Unfortunately, we have no way to specify that I want bind9 to be running. All I can do is check whether, start the process the regular way, and then check if that process is running. And so because I'm going through the Linux service to start bind9, that particular process that is running the service will complete. And I actually need another check. I need the p-success here to check that restart completed successfully, and I'm not going to be able to check that the bind process is running. And so let me now export this again and copy it over and try again. Okay, and so I'm just going to call it try2 and see if it will work this time to go all the way to run the run client command. Okay, and I see that the client is running. So great. So now I have only one more step, which is to actually link that running of the client with the rest of my workflow. And so I'm going to go back to the client machine and remind myself what I typed to, like how exactly was the format of the command. And hopefully it's somewhere in the history, otherwise we'll have to just reconstruct it again. There it is. So that's what I typed. So now instead of typing that, I'm going to include it in my workflow. And so I can actually include it here. I can say cd DNS replay client, and then I'm going to replay this trace, but here instead of using the actual server IP, I'm going to make this dynamic, so I'm going to say this is going to be IP of the server node. Okay, and so let's see if this works. Okay, and so now we will try whether this works. So I'm going to call it something like new example. And while this is going on server, I can actually run TCP dump to see if things worked out. So if I'm fast enough, this is going to be an ETH1. Okay, great. And so I'm having traffic that hits the server. However, the server is not responding, so that's something that I'll have to debug.